welcome to a special Farmacy Brewing Excursion episode of
Brutal Battle. It's another farm brewery.
Yeah.
And you can tell it by the way that Farmacy is spelled. It's F-A-R-M-A-C-Y.
Not the drug pharmacy.
No, not the drug pharmacy. So we like our farm breweries in Maryland because it's beautiful.
Yeah.
A lot of nice, wide open space to just like really spread out, have your own little area. Like I said, it's beautiful. And the problem is a bunch of the farm breweries have just kind of like beer because they're primarily a farm. And then they just decide to try and get some extra revenue with a brewery. But every now and then you find a very special one. And I believe Farmacy is a special one. I think we're calling it our favorite farm brewery we've tried thus far in Maryland.
We haven't tried them all by any means.
Yes, but we've tried a decent amount.
Yeah, at least.
So this is our favorite at the moment because we gotta say, we didn't have a single beer that we thought was terrible.
Right, that was terrible. There was one that we didn't love.
Yeah.
But we did. Yeah. I mean, we'll go through what we tried, but we sampled 10. And they still had more on their tap list we didn't try. So they have a really expansive tap list, which is great. So you're going to find something you like.
Yes, pretty much. So, yeah. So let's talk about, let's do the first beer. Let's get into this one because we have 2 beers as usual. Let's get into that beer and then we'll just kind of talk about, how things are set up, what our experience was there. And then we can have the other one and talk about what beers we had then. But
sure. And we've had both of these.
Yes. Yeah.
For better, for worse. It won't be our first time tasting it, but we were really happy because we both really liked these and they had them to go.
Yeah.
So that's always a perk.
They did not have everything to go, which is usually the case for a lot of these breweries. So, yeah. So anyway, the first one we're going to do is in a 16-ounce can. This is called Coley Boy. It was the name of a dog that they had. I don't know if Coley is still alive.
I have no idea.
I don't know. But it's an American brown ale, a style you don't see all that often. And it's 5.8% alcohol. So low ABV, awesome. Brown ale, also awesome. Let's get into it.
And
go ahead.
There's stuff added to this. What's added? You want to look at your...
Yeah, I'll look at the thing real quick in a second. But it's, when we were going there, we immediately, we like to read the tap lists before we get there. Just, to kind of get excited and pre-plan to a degree what we're going to try. And
hype us up.
We both, when we saw brown ale on there, we were like, yes, we're doing a brown ale. Because, like I said, it's not often that you get the brown ales. Yeah,
and this one piqued my interest because of the add-ins.
Okay, so this is what they say for the Coley Boy. We took a picture of their menu, their beer menu, so it's more in depth. It says, brown ale conditioned on hickory nut, cacao nib, and pecan.
Okay.
And one of the other things to tell you guys that you'll end up seeing with the beers we end up describing is they're all interesting.
Yeah.
They have a lot of beers that have things in them that are from the farm that you wouldn't necessarily think about brewing with. And a bunch of those were done to very surprising effect.
Yeah. We looked at the tap list ahead of time and I was like, this could go.
It's weird.
Yeah, this could go
either way.
Really good or it could be really bad.
Yeah. What they're doing is interesting. It's very cool. Okay, so looks like a brown ale, right? It's very light, got that brownish reddish look to it. It's got a pretty solid head hanging out on top, just very light beige.
So malty.
It's really malty, but it also smells really light and refreshing at the same time.
Definitely chocolate.
Yeah, like a light chocolatiness.
And I do think there's a nuttiness.
Yeah. No, there's definitely a nuttiness, but the thing about it is, are we getting the nuttiness from the pecans, or are we getting a natural brown ale nuttiness? Because a lot of brown ales you will get kind of a natural nut. Yeah. Or the hickory, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it does smell nutty. I get a slight fruity character on it. Light cherry.
Yeah, that's actually what when you said fruit, I was thinking cherry.
Yeah, it's a light cherry.
It's like a candied cherry, though, because there's a little sweetness there.
Yeah, and that's interesting because it almost has a slight nose like a Scotch ale.
Yeah.
It's very similar to a Scotch ale, but mixed with that chocolate and the nuts. Yeah. It smells good.
It's definitely very inviting.
And it's very easy.
It's so easy.
It's very light-bodied, but not too light-bodied. It's very easy, but it's flavorful.
Yeah. It's just like the perfect balance. Like for me, it's a great beer for like the warm weather where you still want some of those dark flavors, but you don't want to commit to anything as heavy as like a porter or a stout. But you can still get some of that roasty, chocolatey maltiness.
Yeah, it's quite roasty, which I really do like about it. It's got that chocolate to it. I'm getting that cherry flavor. There's a bit of that cherry note that's giving it a little bit of a sweet tanginess. The nuts, getting the nuts for sure. It's good. And a bit of that wood. A bit of the wood is showing up in it as well.
I like it a lot. I like it just as much as when we had it there.
Yeah. It's a very good beer. And that's the thing about brown ales is they usually have a good amount of flavor and they're nice and malty and a bit, darker than what's an easy drinking beer, but they're still easy drinking beers.
Yeah.
So it's really nice. But do you want to start talking about our experience there and kind of how things are laid out while we sip on it?
I mean, as most farm breweries, like you're kind of like driving in the middle of nowhere.
Into a farm.
And the sign you could miss, but they have a big flag that says open. I'm like, this has to be it.
Yeah, that's helpful.
And then you drive on like this 1-lane road. It's paved, and there's random pull-offs. So if you do approach another car, someone's supposed to pull off. So that's a little
it gets
complicated.
A little dicey. Yeah.
We had no problem. I could see it at night. Maybe it's a little more challenging.
At night, and if someone's had too much.
Yeah.
Very challenging in that case, but...
Yeah, we had no problems.
Yeah.
And then you just are driving for like a decent while through their farm, and you see horses, and...
Because they have a lot of horses there.
A lot of horses. And then you approach the brewery, and the brewery itself is like... While the farm is very spacious, the actual like brewery area and like places to sit isn't as big as I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. Compared to some other farm breweries.
I agree. Yeah. They don't have like a ton of seating inside.
Or outside.
Outside. Well, that's true. Like pre-made up. But they do say on their website,
you can bring
your
chairs
own chairs
or blankets.
So
and
there's plenty of space to like spread out in that sense. They have foals when we went there. A bunch of, if people don't know what foals are, baby horses in essence, like young horses. So that was really cute to see, like, the young horses kind of with their mothers.
And they said on their Instagram page they've had 18 born since January, from January to March.
Yeah.
And then they had more to come.
Like, it was like 25 more already coming?
Yeah. So it's just a lot.
Yeah. Heavy on the horses. So if you like horses, that's a great place to go and just drink beer and watch horses do horse things.
And then in the front, they have some Adirondack chairs.
Which are actually really comfortable.
Yeah, super comfortable. We sat in those at the end of like our visit.
We should have been there the whole time.
Yeah, it would have been kind of hard for
the samplers.
Our sampler. Yeah. But if you did get a full pour or something, they had like a place to put it in the Adirondack chair. And then they had picnic tables around back, which is where they had the food truck. They just served like their own snacks. Mm-hmm. So no actual food.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah, but you got Top Notch.
I got Top Notch, which is the food truck.
We've talked about Top Notch before because we had them when we did the whiskey on the waterfront at Sagamore Distillery, and we were talking about the suspended beers. Yeah,
I got a burrito this time. I like the nachos better, though.
Yeah. So next time, nachos.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't bad. I just preferred the nachos.
So the only big negative when we were there was other people.
Yeah.
Children running amok. Now, this is an issue, and it's a hot-button issue amongst a Maryland beer drinker Facebook group. It comes up like every few months, I feel like, about people complaining that people take their kids to the brewery and they're poorly behaved kids and they're not watching them and they're just running around causing problems. And yes, that's what was happening while we were there. Terrible. Like,
we observed kids like fighting,
physically fighting,
like
kicking,
where,
hitting each other.
It was like uncomfortable to watch. I'm
like,
I don't think someone's going to get seriously hurt.
Yes.
Like they weren't just playing.
And the parents didn't really care. They weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
So that was the worst part of it. Also, those same parents those were their kids that were unruly were very loud and very much infringing on other people's experience there. Not just their kids, but them as well. So it's just one of those issues where, like, people feel like because there's a lot of space at a farm brewery that there's more license to just bring your kid there and let them run wild.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, like, you know if your kid can handle this stuff or not, because we're definitely kids
I would say there were kids there that were very well behaved.
Yes.
And, like, wandering around, but, like, not disrupting everyone else.
But, like, when the kids are running around and, like, running into people...
I had a kid run into me numerous times.
We had kids running into us, also just running right in front of you and almost tripping you. Like, this is a problem, and the brewery should be clamping down on that stuff, honestly.
Yeah, they're not. I don't know how you clamp down on it, though.
You tell them to leave.
Well, I mean, unless, like, they're...
legitimately.
Around... Like, outside, it's not like I saw a lot of staff members.
But literally, I was seeing that, like, the parents for these kids were outside, and the kids were inside the bar running around.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're not even close. Like, they can't even see where they are.
Well, I saw, like, a kid go up to the bar and get a soda. By himself.
Yeah.
Because he had, like, I guess his parents had tab open, so he just walked up and got the soda.
That's not a problem.
I know, I just thought it was the funniest thing. I've never seen that before.
That's not a problem if the kid's
like,
well
behaved.
What's
this kid doing? There was no money exchange, no card exchange, just...
But basically,
soda.
If you're hearing this and you're a parent and you go to breweries with your kids, you know whether your kid is a good kid and whether they can handle stuff like that, so use your judgment.
Yeah.
Like, if your kid's going to behave themselves, awesome. Totally fine. If you know your kid may very well not behave, do not do it to other people because you're making other people's lives hell. It's not cool. It messes up people's experiences. So that was the big thing that we really hated at the brewery, and that really does mess up your experience. It really, really does. I did not feel very relaxed while I was there because of all that mayhem going on. Not cool. But let's refocus on the good stuff. Let's move on to the second final beer, and then we'll break that down, and then we'll also I'll talk about all the other beers we tried while we were there.
Yeah. So this is in a 12-ounce can. This was a 12-ounce 4-pack we got, and this is their Cha-Cha Imperial Stout.
You want me to read it off here?
Sure.
It says it's Imperial Stout conditioned on toasted coconut, raw coconut, desiccated coconut, toasted cacao nibs, and vanilla bean. And
we should have said Farmacy is in Reisterstown, Maryland.
Oh, yes, you're right. We should have. Although we question whether it's actually Reisterstown.
I guess it is because that's really their address, but it's very, like, northeast Reisterstown. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so this is another one we had. We liked it. I know it's like, for me, coming out of stout season... But this one was worth it. Yeah,
this one's special. And at 14%, it better be special.
It was. Hopefully it is just as good in the can.
I'm sure. Oh, I already tasted a little off my thumb. Because my thumb dipped in.
Okay. It's very...
When I opened it up.
The can's been very full.
Yeah, yes. Very full.
I didn't see if they did crowlers there.
I didn't see anything for crowlers, so I think maybe not, but...
I didn't look.
I don't know. Okay, so...
It's dark.
It's dark. It looks like a stout. It's dark. It's darker than the Coley Boy. The head hanging out decently darker as well. It's nice, like a light brown. Very chocolatey.
Very vanilla-y. I'm getting a lot of vanilla.
Lots of vanilla, lots of chocolate. Are you getting the coconut?
A little bit. Not as much as I think is in the taste from what I remember, Agreed. But I can perceive the coconut.
There's a bit of an ashy note on it. But it's not a lot. It's like a light ashy note.
It smells creamy.
It does. Which you could be getting that just from the vanilla.
Sure.
Kind of smells brownie-like. Yeah. Because of how, like, rich chocolatey it is.
Gooey.
Yeah.
Yeah. It smells, like, decadent.
It doesn't really smell boozy, though, either.
No, it doesn't.
Like, for 14%, you would think you'd probably be smelling like some, like astringent tickling in your nose, but not really.
I don't remember the booze level. I'm interested to see what it is.
I mean, you could tell it's higher ABV, But not 14%, I don't think. I think like 10.
10.
Yeah. So dangerous.
It's not as coconutty as I remember.
Really? Because I'm actually getting a decent amount of coconut out of it.
I'll be interested to see what happens to this as it warms up. I mean, I still think it's very good. It's very delicious.
No, it's very good.
There's a little bitterness, but still like that vanilla creaminess, chocolatey, coconutty.
I think it's kind of like, for me, it's like a medium bitterness that's kind of playing off like dark chocolate bitter on the end because it's so chocolatey.
For me, it's a low-level bitterness.
I am getting a decent amount of coconut, and it's mixing in with the vanilla. So like that combination of like coconut vanilla together is nice, and that's where I think that creaminess is kind of coming to the forefront.
It's like a Almond Joy.
Well, they say it's supposed to be like a macaroon.
Yeah.
So...
chocolate chip.
It is like that. Like this is a good beer representation of a macaroon. This is very well executed. Yeah, big fan. So as we continue to sip on it, I'll tell you the other beers that we had.
They don't do. We asked if they did flights. They said they don't do flights, but the first guy said they did half pours. I'm like, perfect, but you can only get 2 per person,
and they're not half pours.
But then
they're 5 ounces,
right? But then. When he poured them, I'm like, I don't think that's a half pour.
Yeah, and as soon as we got the glasses, we just looked and we're like, that is not.
We're pretty good
ounces.
at like judging ounces.
Yeah.
And then I felt like a hole because I go back and I said, "Can I have a half pour?" And he's like, "It's not a half pour; it's 5 ounces." And I'm like, "Well,
knew it."
Talk to Joe Schmo over here because he told me it was a half pour.
Talk to your homie. All right, so obviously we had the Cha-Cha and the Coley Boy. We had Knowing a Ghost, which was a Belgian-style wit beer brewed with elderflower, turmeric, ginger, and coriander. Yeah. And that was interesting.
It grew on us.
Yes, that was one where I tasted it first. I'm like, a little weird.
A lot going on.
And then as we kept drinking, we're like, this one is, starting to shape up pretty well.
I could see why people like it. I don't think I could drink like a full pour of it. Mm-hmm. But I could appreciate all the layers of flavor.
Then we had their Ruby Slipper, which is a Goza conditioned on blueberry, blackberry, and raspberry with lime and sea salt.
Classic.
It was a nice sour beer, nice fruity sour beer. It was very tasty.
And I saw a lot of people drinking that.
Yeah, a lot of people. Then we had their Jamble, was a Berliner Weiss, brewed with juicy watermelon, fresh cucumber, ají, pepper, raspberry, and coriander.
Also grew on us.
Yes. You definitely got the pepper, and that was kind of like the big curveball in that one. And the watermelon.
Watermelon was the showstopper for me because it was just like in your face.
Yeah, and to a degree it was very like watermelon Jolly Rancher type flavor without being too sweet.
I could see that.
I wouldn't have a lot of it.
Yeah, again, I couldn't do a full pour, but I could appreciate the flavors. And I could see why someone would like that a lot.
Then we had their Bunker Hill, which is a blonde ale that's moderately hoppy. That was really good.
We played the game at the end of the day. If you had to get a full pour or something, what would you get? And that was your pick.
Yeah, I said the Bunker Hill. Because it was really like light and refreshing, but also really tasty with that hopping.
Perfect for drinking outside.
Really good beer. Really, really dug that one. Then we had their...
And they didn't have that to go.
No.
Yeah, because I think otherwise we would have gotten that one.
Then we had their IDKSL, which is a black IPA.
Very tasty.
Done with Idaho 7, Idaho Gem, Mosaic, and Racaw. I think it was supposed to be Rawaka, maybe. Or maybe this is a different... Rakau. Rakau. Must be a different one. So, yeah. It was a good black IPA.
Yeah.
Nice. Then we had their Beatbox, which is an IPA with Simcoe Mosaic, Strata, and Enigma hops, then added beet juice. That's the one we poured it out because it was way too heavy on the beet. Yeah. It just tasted like earthy, just dirt, basically. Yeah. So that was the only one we weren't fans of. Other than that,
and it wasn't
really good.
We only really dumped it because we're watching our alcohol consumption, and I know it was only 5 ounces, but that adds up.
Every bit counts.
And it wasn't terrible though. Yeah.
Then we had their Level With Me Mosaic, which is an IPA that's done with North Star Pills, Grain Bill, raw wheat, and then they have Mosaic Cryo, and Mosaic Incognito that's then balanced out with Eldorado and Azacca hops.
That was tasty.
Yeah, that one was really good. I really like that from a hoppy standpoint. And then the final one we had was their Eager Tessie. This one was probably the most interesting. A green tomato saison dry hopped with Citra, Comet, and Amarillo. So your take on...
That one was my pick for a full pour.
Yeah. So you think green tomatoes or tomatoes in general in a beer, what's that going to do? You could taste it. So your first sip, it's weird. And you're just like, I don't know. But as you keep drinking it, basically what it's doing is you're still getting the nice hoppiness from the beer, but you're getting that added umami perception that you get from tomatoes. So it was just this whole new beer experience that I've never had before, and I'm sure you haven't either.
It was a lot going into it.
Yeah, I've never had umami from a beer, and that did it, and it was really good. Actually, I take that back. We have had umami from a beer before. Trogs did a beer with mushrooms, and mushrooms also have umami, and they did add it to that beer. So this is the second time, but the time we had that Trogs one was 8 years ago, maybe at this point. It's been a long time.
Now, the tomato beer one was interesting because on their board, they called it a farmhouse IPA.
Well, it had a...
So, I guess the Saison hoppy.
Yeah, it had extra hopping for what a Saison is, so I guess they can kind of say farmhouse IPA, I guess.
Call it whatever.
But yeah.
I thought that one was really tasty.
Okay.
So you can listen and hear like all of the interesting things from the farm that they put in their beer.
Yeah.
And how like it could have gone either way.
Well, and also as you're listening, you're probably hearing the excitement in our voices when we're talking about these beers. So that just tells you it's good stuff.
Yeah. Like we got, because we can only get 2. So we went up and got 4 beers. And then we're like, okay, let's do another 4. And then we're like, damn, these are so good. Let's just do another 2.
Yeah. And we even contemplated going further than the 10 we did. And we were just like, no, let's just
call it.
Let's call it for now. But we are going to go back at some point because like we said, from what we've been to farm brewery wise, it's our favorite in Maryland right now. So
yeah. And then I was wondering, like, was it just like they happened to have like a really awesome tap list at that time that we went? But I was talking to one of my coworkers and he was saying how he had been there and we were talking and he's like, oh yeah, I love it there. It's so great. I'm like, okay. Yeah. So, and I trust his opinion on beer. So
yeah. So yeah, awesome experience. Can't wait to hit some more beers because
we're hitting the beer circuit.
We're doing more excursion episodes. You got to pick which is your favorite between these. I'm gonna go the Coley Boy for me. Even though I think the Cha Cha is really outstanding, like I can get more beers kind of like that.
Sure.
The Coley Boy is a little more hard to find. Like first of all, brown ale is hard to find. Second of all, a brown ale that's that good is hard to find. So
yeah, I'll agree with you. It's a hard pick because they're both very good.
Yeah, no. I mean, obviously they're both great. So awesome. Thanks everyone for listening to this one. This is a longer episode. I'm not going to do all the plug stuff at the end, but thank you everyone for listening. Stay tuned to see where we're going next because we're trying to hit what we can. And until next time,
keep it brutal.